You've got electric vehicles coming out, including for our TV audiences, the electric Hummer that's right here beside us here. What are you going to do to help the president deliver on his commitment?
Well, I think for us, it's making sure that we have a full portfolio of electric vehicles. You know, it starts this fall with the GMC Hummer Eevee, followed by the Cadillac Lyriq. But we have vehicles coming between now and 2025 across many segments. We've also talked about the Chevrolet Silverado electric truck. And I can't wait as we keep showing more and more of the portfolio, because making sure we have vehicles that customers want to buy is going to be very important to achieve the goals that he's set.
So thank you. You took me right there. I was going to ask you about the Silverado at some point. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of your success, GM's success in recent years, has been from the full-size pickup trucks. When are we going to see an electric version of the Silverado?
Well, we'll see it in the not-too-distant future. We haven't announced timing on it yet, but I can't wait till we share the vehicle with the world, because this truck really takes advantage of our Ultium platform and how we can style it and provide capability that you can't do if you're trying to retrofit an existing ICE vehicle today or ICE truck today.
So when we make this conversion from internal combustion engine vehicles into electric vehicles, it's a lot of cars to replace. And if you're going to get to the goals the president set, and you have set, by the way, for General Motors,
yes,
it's going to be a lot of conversion. What is the pace of that? I mean, is it basically back-end loaded? Take the 2035 date that you've put out there. How much of it's going to be seen by 2025? How much are we going to see by 2030?
Well, I think we are going to have the portfolio, and we have the manufacturing capability that we're going to be able to build, and we're planning for having contingencies if the adoption happens more quickly. I think getting the infrastructure right is going to be key, because we need to earn that customer who only has one vehicle and needs it every day to get back and forth to work. And also it has to be affordable. But customers have told us if it's a beautifully designed vehicle in the segment they want, with about 300 miles of range, and then it's priced appropriately, they're all in.
We tend to think about the United States when it comes to General Motors, but you have a very substantial operation in China, have been there for a very long time. How important is China to your EV plans?
Well, I think China is a very important market to us. We're #2 in China with our Cadillac, Buick, Chevy, and then also our Wuling and Baojun brands with our SGMW joint venture. And so we have a very strong position in the country already. We're aggressively moving to introduce more electric vehicles. Right now, the Hongguang Eevee is the fastest selling or the highest selling EV in China. And so we think that's just continues to be a very important market for us to continue to grow and be in a leading position.
As you look at profit margins, because you've always had goals for profit margins at GM, last time I checked, there's about 8% now, you're shooting for 10, something like that. What does a GM look like in terms of profit margins when you're totally EV?
Well, I think the opportunity that we have is we continue to invest in developing battery technology. We see the costs coming down. And so we'll get to a point, because also ICE vehicles, because of the requirements from a regulatory perspective, they're going up. So over a longer period of time, we think we're going to not only have affordable electric vehicles with, very well-priced battery capability, power density, but then also the software business that we're going to unlock on top of it. Because the vehicle, whether it's ICE or EV, is really a software platform. And so that business that is true growth for us is really going to change the margins substantially, and they'll be higher. You
mentioned the battery technology, which is key to this. You have made a decision to pair with LG Chem and to really have your Ultium platform, which this Hummer will be made on, as well as the Lyriq. At the same time, you've had some difficulties recently with the Bolt, as I understand, a different technology, the recall. When do you think you'll understand what went wrong with the Bolt so you can fix it?
Well, we already understand that when two very specific manufacturing defects happen in the same cell, that's when there's an issue. And, we're working with LG Chem to make sure that those issues are solved. And then we'll be able to provide battery cell and module replacements for our customers. But I think it's important, as you mentioned, the Ultium technology is very different than what's in the Bolt. And I believe the lessons learned that we have through this experience are really going to benefit the entire industry, and the importance of the manufacturing processes. And with our joint venture with LG, who is a valued partner, we are going to be able to combine their expertise with our expertise. So I have a lot of confidence in our Ultium platform.
You mentioned that LG Chem is a valued partner. As far as I can tell, it's your only partner when it comes to battery technology. Some others have gone a different way and had 2 or 3 different horses in the race. Does the experience with the Bolt raise any questions in your mind about putting all your eggs into that basket, the Ultium basket?
Well, I would say we are working, we work with LG, but we also have our internal work. We have one of the largest battery development labs, I think, in the country, and we're building a manufacturing lab as well. But we also have a partnership with Solid Energy Solutions. So we have multiple pathways with battery technology to make sure we're going to have a leadership position. And the flexibility that's been designed into the Ultium platform is many different chemistries can be introduced. So that's where I think we're really well positioned as we go forward to use the best battery technologies.
As you effectuate, as I say, this fundamental transformation, it's going to change the supply chain a lot. You're going to need very different components, not just batteries, but other things as well, to make it all work. Where are we with semiconductors right now? Is that an indication of what's to come as we go over to EVs?
Well, I think the semiconductor shortage has some very specific things that caused it. It continues to be a challenge today because of COVID and the impact in Southeast Asia, specifically Malaysia. So it continues to be a very volatile situation. But that's in the short term. I think as we move out, and I can tell you that General Motors, not only with semiconductors, but also all of the critical parts, minerals, precious metals that we need to build EVs and continue to build ICE, we are working to have either partnerships or joint ventures to make sure we won't be inhibited by supply as we go forward.
So I find this a really important and interesting point. There's always a build it or buy it issue when it comes to the components put into a car. And you're suggesting maybe there's a middle course where you don't simply buy a part, you don't make it yourself, but you have partnerships or joint ventures so you perhaps have more influence or control over the production. Is that where you're going with your supply chain?
Well, we're looking, there'll be a variety of solutions. I think if you look at how we're approaching EVs, we decided long ago that we wanted to be responsible for the battery cell manufacturer, pack manufacturer, so we've already done that. We also have a family of motors that we're building internally as well for our electric vehicles, and then all of the software and control systems are being done internally as well. So we use the shift to EVs to really say what are the key components, the places we want to control that we can differentiate ourselves because of our technological capability, and we've already done that. As it relates to all the different components that we need, we'll look at a series of strategic arrangements, joint ventures, or traditional supply agreements.
As you look at your plans for electric vehicles, how critical is the government? What's the role the government has to play? And we saw you with President Biden at the White House. What do you need from the government?
Well, I think it's very important that the infrastructure, that we have adequate charging capability, because that's very important for people who need to depend on the vehicle every day. We also think in the early phases, making sure that there's modifications to the EV tax credit, that it doesn't penalize first movers that have already sold a number of electric vehicles. Those need to be changed. And then we think what they're talking about from an R&D tax credit to encourage engineering and investment in the United States will be very important as well. And
are you confident you have a willing partner in President Biden and the administration to try to accomplish this? Certainly he's made climate a big priority for, as he said, all of government.
We have had many conversations, not only with the president and the vice president, but many members of the cabinet and members of Congress. And I think this is an area where there is true support. And as Gina McCarthy said, making sure we put EVs on an irreversible path. We're very dedicated to that. One thing the government could do for you is buy GM electric vehicles. We've heard President Biden commit to try to replace all the 650,000 government vehicles right now, federal government vehicles, with EVs. Are you talking about that possibility? You have some vehicles coming along. Rest assured, we are having the appropriate conversations with the great electric vehicles we have coming that we think would be perfect for the government fleet. One of the issues with the electric vehicles is what propels the vehicle. But it strikes me there's a whole other range of issues as well, which is what you can do with the vehicle once it is electrified. And that's something that I know you're focused on, the ancillary services. Tell us about those services. Well, whether it's actually an internal combustion engine vehicle or a electric vehicle, with the new electrical architecture, our vehicle intelligent platform that we've started rolling out in 2019, it really gives us the opportunity to do over-the-air updates across the vehicle, get information from the vehicle, and so that opens up really a software platform to innovate with applications, services, subscriptions. One area that we're looking at is with Super Cruise. If people want to, people right now can buy it as an option when they buy the vehicle, but what if they want to have it on demand? Those are things that we are exploring and looking to do as we move forward. Another is Onstar Insurance. When you think about the unique information we can pull from the vehicle, again, with customers' approval, we can really do a better job developing an algorithm to price insurance. And then we're right there. You can't take delivery of a vehicle without insurance. So I think it's really an opportunity to disrupt today's auto insurance.
Well, I find this fascinating, as I understand it, but correct me if I'm wrong. My insurance rate may fluctuate depending on how well I drive. It can tell how responsible I am or am not. So I could get a break on the insurance, or I could have to pay more as well. Is that the way it works?
Well, and that's already happening today to a certain extent. I'm kind of a safe driver, but we think we can take it to a whole nother level with the algorithms that are used to set the premiums in insurance today. And with the pilots that we're running, it's very encouraging.
And also, to come back to what you said, maybe I could get options on my vehicle after I bought the vehicle, just over the air without going to the dealer?
Absolutely, and that's where, to me, it's very exciting, because if you own a vehicle that's got our vehicle intelligent platform, if we innovate something 2 years from now, in many cases, we're going to be able to offer it to you as something you can add to your vehicle. So the idea that your vehicle just keeps getting better through the ownership experience.
So talk about a smart vehicle, talk about automated driving. Cruise, particularly, investment you made at one point. Some people, I remember, were critical of the investment. Thus far, it's panned out all right if we look at the valuations. Tell us where Cruise is. You got approval in California to use it, at least if you're not charging for it. When are you going to deploy Cruise?
Well, what I've said is, and I don't want to steal the thunder, we do have an investor day coming up, and Dan Ammon will be a part of it.
It's okay, you can give us a sneak peek.
I'm sure you're good with that. But I'm excited with the weekly interaction that I have with the Cruise team, the progress that they're making on the capability of the software. We're on a very good path, and as I've said many times, it's quarters, not years, that you'll see us deploy Cruise ride sharing in San Francisco.
What about outside the country? Because I think I saw that UAE designated Cruise as the exclusive robo-taxi provider. Are there greater opportunities outside the United States potentially for Cruise than even inside the United States?
Well, I think it's a both. It's an and we do have a relationship with Dubai, and we also, because Honda is an investor, there's also work that we're doing in Japan. So I think there's many places where we can deploy the Cruise technology for autonomous vehicles, and I'm very excited about that. I definitely, though, want to see that happen in the United States and grow substantially here. And we're having conversations with the right members of the administration and Congress on that front as well.
You mentioned Honda, which is, as I recall, an investor now in Cruise as well. What about your services generally? Could they be made available to people who are driving, heaven forfend, some vehicle other than a GM vehicle?
Well, I think it depends on that vehicle. I mean, we have a great strategic partnership with Honda, from fuel cells to leveraging the Ultium platform to their investment in Eevee. And so I can't, no announcements to make today, but I think there is opportunity to leverage some of the technology that General Motors has developed.
So let's talk about a couple of other things I know very important to you in terms of operations, COVID-19. There's been a resurgence in the country, largely because of the Delta variant. Give us a sense of what you're doing at GM for your operations. Are you requiring vaccinations of employees? Are you requiring masks? What are you doing?
Well, from the day we learned about COVID, our focus has been on the safety of our employees and then of our customers. And we learned a tremendous amount. And when we brought people back a year ago last May, we've been following the safety protocols of the appropriate social distancing, wearing masks, screening, and it's worked quite well. Because of the outbreak of the Delta variant, we are now back into wearing masks in the U.S., and it varies around the world based on what's happening. And our employees have just done a phenomenal job of following our safety protocols. So we continue to evaluate all options of what we can do, because we know getting everyone vaccinated is going to be critical to stopping the different variants of the disease. Right now, we're also very much focused on education, because there's a lot of myths out there or misinformation where people are making decisions to not get the vaccine based on bad information. So we also are running an education campaign as well. To be clear, do you know the vaccination status of your employees? Are you asking them that question? Are you asking them to tell you if they're vaccinated? We are requesting in the United States, and we're working to do that around the globe, obviously following the local laws or country laws. And so we are working on that right now, and that will inform the decisions that we make as we move forward. And
masks? Everybody needs to wear masks?
Everybody right now you and I are social distance. That's why we don't. But
and we have our masks on as soon as we step away.
As soon as we get out of these chairs. And so in our facilities, whether it's our manufacturing plants, warehouses, offices, masks are required whether you're vaccinated or not.
So talk to us also about unions and the role of unions in all this. First of all, is it okay to require vaccinations with the UAW? Are they resisting that? Are they with that? Are they united with you on this?
Well, first of all, I would say in working to make sure our workforce is safe, the UAW has been an absolute fantastic partner on being data-driven, following the advice from the CDC. And that's, really, I think, what has allowed us to have the very successful protocols to not only protect lives, but to protect livelihoods. And so, as we look at what the right thing to do as it relates to the vaccine, we'll work with the unions, and that will be something that we negotiate with them or work with them to decide what the right thing to do is.
Do you try to have the same rules for the hourly employees as for the salaried?
We do, but we also really respect the fact that some of our workforce is represented not only by the UAW, but with other unions around the globe. And it's an important part to have that dialogue as part of the contractual process.
Where is GM on bringing people back into the office? This is a hot topic all through U.S. industry. Certainly in New York, there's a whole debate about banks, for example. Where are you in bringing your people back to the office?
Well, several months ago, we rolled out what we call work appropriately. And for those who don't necessarily have to be at work to do their jobs, first I want to give a big shout out to all of the people, whether they're in our manufacturing facilities, warehouses, R&D, labs, design. Thank you for coming to work every day and following the protocols so you can do your work safely. For the portion of our workforce that doesn't necessarily always have to be in the office, it's work appropriately, and we're leaving it to the individual and their leader to decide where can you do your best work. And so far, it's been very well received by our employees.
Going back to the unions for a moment, let me ask a broader question about electric vehicles. We saw President Biden again with you at the White House, and the head of the UAW was there, very specifically involved, and the president talked a fair amount about the role of union workers in this process. Is the union a help in moving faster EVs, or can it be a hindrance? How is it working? Because sometimes unions have not always been progressive in adopting new technologies.
Well, I can only speak to the relationship that we have with the UAW and talking about the technology. And frankly, it's opportunities for growth, and it's opportunities to make sure that the workforce that they represent, our workforce, that they have these opportunities we go forward. And with what we're doing at Factory Zero and other plants around the world, and specifically in the U.S., we're making sure we provide the training so they'll be part of our all-electric future. So I think it's very positive right now.
So as you look forward to this future that you clearly have crafted and you've laid out in detail, and let's be honest, it's going well into the future. In success, it's going to last well past you and me, as a practical matter. As you look at it, what is the thing that you worry the most about? What could be a potential hindrance to achieving what needs to be achieved?
Well, one of the things I talk about, I feel very confident we have the right strategy and we have the adaptability that if we have to make changes and tweaks here and there, we will. But it's speed of execution, and that's what I talk about to our team all the time, and making sure we're getting out of our own way and getting rid of bureaucracy so we can move quickly to achieve this vision.
You have had a wonderful run at General Motors. Tell me about your team, because one of the things that's always struck me about you as a CEO, you always say it's the team effort. It's not just me. Tell me about who you've got on your team that you particularly rely upon.
Well, there's several members of the senior leadership team that are just phenomenal. I mean, Mark Royce is our president, and he is one of the most knowledgeable, car people, I think, on the globe, in the globe. So he does a phenomenal job. And then, we have people who have been at the company many years, like myself and Mark, Steve Carlisle, who runs North America. But then we have people who have just recently joined the company, like Paul Jacobson, our CEO, Alan Wexler, who came from Sapient. And really, the benefit of having all these diverse experiences and being from different industries, but also the deep knowledge of our industry, I think is what makes General Motors' leadership team special and why we're able to move so quickly.
Mary, you talk about a mix between people who've been here a while. I think you've been here 40 years, is that right? More or less?
Yes.
40 years, so that's congratulations. And also newcomers as well. GM has a blend of that. You also have a blend of the traditional as well as the EV. Right. But do you really have a disadvantage because you're not starting from scratch? Do you sometimes, deep in your heart, envy the people who can just start with a blank sheet of paper?
creating, designing, engineering, integrating, and manufacturing a vehicle is. And I think all of those are key expertise, because remember, the average age of a car in the United States is over 11 years old. To make sure you're designing something that has got the quality and the durability and the reliability is something I know we know how to do. Our manufacturing team, we have the plants built. We just need to modify them to build electric vehicles, and we have trained workforce that is very much wanting to be a part of our future. So I think when people start to realize all of the assets that we bring to this equation, it's not a if, it's a how fast can they do it.
Mary, you have the great advantage of being inside, really knowing what's going on. At one point, I was in a big corporation as well, and I remember sometimes being frustrated that the outside world, and particularly the media, didn't understand something fundamental about what we were doing. They just got it wrong. They might be trying, but they just got it wrong. What do we get it wrong about General Motors?
Well, I think sometimes not recognizing the power of the capabilities we have in the company, the scale, the loyalty that we have. There are so many things that are important to winning a customer and owning a customer for life that I think, but I always hold ourselves accountable. We just need to do a better job explaining it, and we will.
It's fascinating to think about this change to electric vehicles for all of us. Are you sometimes nostalgic for internal combustion engines? I mean, you grew up in this business. Your father was in this business, as my father was. You went to what we used to call GM Tech, but they renamed, as I recall. You're an automotive engineer through and through. Are you ever nostalgic for internal combustion engines?
Well, I mean, there's so many vehicles that I'm proud of that are on the road right now, and will be on the road for a while, and the capability is just incredible. But I also having the opportunity, whether it's driving the Hummer Eevee or right now I'm driving a Bolt EUV, and the future products that we have coming, I think, are just going to surprise and delight our customers.